Hello again, friends of the bizarre and baffling. Welcome back to History's Hidden Weird, where the past isn't just strange, it's downright fermented. I'm your host, Quinn Strange. Today's tale brings us to 19th century London. The year is 1814. The place, Tottenham Court Road. And the cause of death for at least 8 people? Not war, not disease, but beer. Yes, this is the story of the Great London Beer Flood. A tragedy that sounds like the setup to a Monty Python sketch, but it really happened. A tidal wave of beer, hundreds of thousands of liters, swept through the streets, destroying homes, drowning residents, and leaving an entire neighborhood soaked in booze and sorrow. To understand how this happened, we need to look at the brewery responsible, the Horseshoe Brewery, owned by Moo and Company. Located in the heart of the St. Giles area, then a poor, overcrowded London neighborhood, the brewery specialized in one thing, porter. A dark, strong beer popular among working-class Londoners. At the time, the brewery stored its beer in giant vats. I mean giant. One of these vats, the one that would trigger the disaster, held over 600,000 liters of beer. That's enough to fill nearly 1.2 million pints. The vat was 22 feet high and reinforced with massive iron hoops. But those hoops had been showing signs of wear. On October 17, 1814, at around 4:30 in the afternoon, one of the iron hoops snapped. The vat burst open with a thunderous roar. The force of the collapse was so great that it knocked the spigot off another vat, which also began to empty. Within minutes, a torrent of beer, some 1.4 million liters in total, rushed out of the building. The beer wave smashed through the back wall of the brewery, flooding into the surrounding streets and low-lying buildings. It was estimated to be over 15 feet high in some places. People had no time to react. Houses, many already poorly built and overcrowded, were swept away or collapsed under the pressure. One of the worst-hit locations was a basement apartment where a family was holding a wake for a deceased child. The flood struck without warning, and several attendees were drowned. In total, 8 people were killed. All of them were local residents, women and children, mostly, living in the tightly packed slums of St. Giles. In the aftermath, rescue workers waded through beer-sodden ruins to pull out the injured and dead. Now, here's where it gets even weirder. The smell of beer hung in the air for days. Curious onlookers came with cups and buckets, scooping up what they could. Some treated the sight as a strange celebration, drinking from the beer puddles. Others were more solemn, helping with the cleanup and consoling the bereaved. And when it came time for justice, well, no one was held responsible. The disaster was officially ruled an act of God. The courts determined that the brewery hadn't broken any laws or acted negligently. In fact, the company petitioned the British Parliament for financial relief, and got it. They were even reimbursed for the lost beer through a tax refund. Meanwhile, the victims' families received nothing. They had lost loved ones, homes, and possessions, and all they had to show for it was a neighborhood that reeked of stale porter. So how does a flood of beer become a forgotten chapter in history? Well, for one, it happened in a poor district. The lives lost were those of the underclass, and the authorities of the time didn't see it as a scandal. Also, because it was so absurd. So silly. The idea that a wall of beer could kill you sounds like satire, not tragedy. But the London beer flood is a potent symbol, pun intended, of how industrial-scale production and lax safety regulations collided in deadly ways. The massive vats used by Moo and Company were known to be dangerous. Similar accidents had happened before, though never on this scale. And while the flood killed 8 people, it could have been far worse. If it had occurred during the evening rush or on a market day, the death toll could have been in the dozens, or even hundreds. There's even a strange afterlife to the event. In modern times, the story has become a dark curiosity. Books, articles, and even pub trivia recount it with a chuckle. A plaque now marks the site of the old brewery. And each year on October 17th, some Londoners raise a pint to the memory of those lost to the beer tide. But beneath the novelty, the beer flood reminds us how easily everyday life can be upended by forces we never imagine. It's a cautionary tale about infrastructure, safety, and the overlooked costs of industry. And honestly, it's also just one of the weirdest disasters in human history. A flood of beer. A real one. In the middle of London. So, next time you're nursing a pint at the pub, spare a thought for the folks of St. Giles. The ones who didn't see the beer coming. I'm Quinn Strange, and this has been History's Hidden Weird. If today's story left you shaken, stirred, or strangely thirsty, share it with someone who enjoys the oddest corners of the past. If you liked today's episode, leave a review, share with your weird history-loving friends, and hit follow. Have a strange story you want us to cover? Comment below and we will see what we can do. Until next time, stay weird.